Good morning, everybody. Ni hao, or how my good friend likes to tell me, Slama pagi, apa kaba. So, my name is Demeter. I would like to present in the following 30 minutes a project that is very dear to me, which I've been working for almost 1 year from now. But before that, I would like to start with a quote. And this quote says, if you know the enemy, if you know yourself, you do not need to worry the outcome of the 100 battles. And I think this quote defines the essence of the cybersecurity and InfoSec community right now. But we'll get to this one a little bit later. So I graduated university almost 4 years ago. Since then, I joined Kaspersky Lab as a security researcher. And the team I'm part of is called Global Research and Analysis Team. In short, GREAT. I don't know who chose this name, but it's a funny name. So recently, this year, we celebrated 10 years of existence. And basically, for the ones who don't know about our team, we are mostly specialized in finding out advanced APT attacks. We are specializing in researching attacks against power plants, banks, governments, and everything that is highly specialized in order to research and expose their operations. So in our 10 years of existence, we have let's say, found out a lot of APT attacks. And just to mention some of them, that would be like Gauss, DQ, Miniflame, Red October, one of my favorites. But also, we have more. So each year, as year passed by, we were uncovering more and more APT attacks or campaigns. And I would like just to mention some of them, again, some of my favorite ones. So that would be Satellite Turla, amazing campaign that were exfiltrating data through the satellite link. Carbanak guys, which I'm pretty sure you must have heard about them. Actually, one of their leaders got caught by the police, and they caught him like this year. So that was a big win for us. The Equation Group, of course, everybody knows about this, and any other, all other campaigns that were like super interesting. But you might ask and say like, hey Dan, this is only up until 2016. Well, the reason I didn't add 17 and 18 is because they couldn't fit in the slide anymore. So last year we found more than 100 new APT campaigns. And this year we doubled, like I think we will double the number. We'll see. Not all of our research is public. We have private research, but from time to time we are releasing new research, and you can follow all our research on securities.com. So basically, you can see our latest stuff. Last week we just announced a new development of a well-known APT actor. So please check it out. But today we're not going to talk about a lot of APTs. This year at our Security Analyst Summit, two smart guys, way smarter than I am, they developed and introduced a new war. And they used to call it the information war. You might not be like aware of this information war. And if you want to find out more info about this one, check out their presentation, 10 years of GREAT. But during their presentation, these two gentlemen, Costin Raiu and Vitaly Kamluk, they presented their idea, and they said that the information war consists of three things: the cyber espionage, sabotage, and mass opinion manipulation. Well, cyber espionage and sabotage, they both use malware in order to achieve their targets. In order to finish their missions, attackers need malware in order to fulfill their missions. Mass opinion manipulation is a totally different story. You've all heard about fake news, but I won't go into that. Instead, we're going to be focusing on malware. And I'm not going to give you a pitch about like current threatscape or what's happening right now with malware. But I want to present to you a tool that might be useful for you to catch malware. More exactly, it might be useful for you to help protect your networks or equipment. So before I present that, I'd like to ask you if this looks familiar to you. Okay, so 1 or 2 people. This C-type looking language is actually called a KLara rule. KLara is an open source software that was developed by Manuel Alvarez, and he's now working for VirusTotal right now. KLara is your Swiss army knife of pattern matching. Basically, you can have a rule, you can define some strings, you can define some hex values or any other variables, and then once you deploy this KLara rule over a set of files, the KLara engine will try to match this rule with some files. If those files match, then you will be notified, and it will say, okay, this rule matched these specific files. So KLara is open source, it's publicly available. You can download, you can use it, and it's amazing. Everybody is using this one nowadays, and I strongly recommend you start using it. Now, another problem that arises is that, okay, you have KLara, but you need your files and you need your rules. Let's say you have a friend, yeah? And this friend gives you like super awesome KLara rule he made, but you still need to know where to look for. And us researchers, especially in grade, we're looking for 0 days. We're looking for fresh attacks. So where do we find them? Well, one place to find those like attacks, most of them, not all of them, is VirusTotal. You can find a lot of stuff on VirusTotal and a lot of good stuff. But VirusTotal is not public, like it's private. And you have two options. You either upload your KLara rule to VirusTotal and then you get notified whenever somebody uploads a new file that matches your KLara rule, or you upload your KLara rule and you scan the entire VirusTotal collection, and then you try to see if some files that were uploaded in the past match your KLara rule. But sometimes this is not enough. Sometimes you might want to have your local in-house VirusTotal scanner. Sometimes you might want to have, like, you have a collection of files and you want to scan them. But as most researchers do, they have like a small collection on their laptop, but you have like a bigger collection somewhere else. So you have to store it on a server, you have to log in on that server, you have to run your KLara on the server, and it's a little bit troublesome. Instead, basically, all these issues made us think that, maybe we need a tool in order to fix all our problems, like to fix this kind of problems. Like you have a collection of big files, how do you scan them? You want to share results with somebody else, how do you do it? So we have a new project. Unfortunately, we didn't call it Dolores. Although, are there any Westworld fans in here? Perfect. Dolores is my favorite Westworld character. So we called it KLara. In a nutshell, KLara is a system that allows you to have a distributed KLara scanner. So you have your KLara rules, and you want to scan a large collection of files. You want to have a web interface, you want to have users, and you want to get notifications by email, or by Telegram, or by whatever output endpoint you want to choose. And you get notifications whenever you scan your files. So it's kind of like a fire and forget. You upload your rule, and then rules get scans, and then you get the results back. So this is pretty cool. It's built on like on 3 simple principles. It's written in Python. It's using an SQL database. We use MariaDB. And of course, it's using KLara to scan for files, because we didn't want to replace KLara. We wanted to incorporate it, to add. So whenever a new whenever a new version of KLara gets released, you can immediately add it to KLara. So in the back end, it's pretty simple. There are multiple workers. those workers have this, what we call a scan repositories. Basically, those are your files. That's where your files physically exist. So workers can have different scan repositories. And whenever a new user logs in and submits a new job, then this task is being inserted into the database. And then workers are asking one dispatcher, hey, can you give me a new job to do? And the dispatcher checks the database, and if there's some new work to do, it assigns it to the worker. So it's pretty simple, but it's also distributed. So it means that it can handle a lot of users submitting a lot of jobs at the same time. So I wouldn't be presenting this project if it wouldn't be aligned with our philosophy. So it's useless to present you something that you can't use. And because of that, in March this year, at our Security Analyst Summit, we open sourced this tool. So basically, you can go to GitHub, you can get the tool, and then you can check it out yourself. The code is there on GitHub. And then you might say, okay, Dan, I've got the code, I have everything set up, how do I install it? Well, it's pretty simple. You check out the instructions on the GitHub. You basically need a server that is running Ubuntu or Linux, but it can also run on Windows, it can run on Mac OS. This is because the entire project is written in Python. So Python, it can be compiled to multiple architectures, so it's up to you to choose what platform you want to run it on. For dispatcher and workers, you need the supervisor and Python with virtual environment. And of course, for workers, you also need to install KLara, which is pretty simple to install. And as a database, as I said, MariaDB, MySQL, or PostgreSQL, it might work. I didn't test it. So once you log in, once you create users, and once you set up everything, the first job, the first task you want to do is you want to submit your rules. So this is how it looks like. This is the submit the new job page. And let's go a bit through the information that you have on this page. So you're logged in as this user. I'm not sure if you can see it. The page is white, but this is the logged in user, KLara. This is the group you're part of, Kaspersky Training. And then this is the field where you input your rules. And then you can add more rules. This is just one here. Lastly, you'll have to add, you have to choose which scan repositories you want to scan your rule to against. And you have multiple choices. Those scan repositories, I will get back to them a little bit later, and they are defined based on the group you're part of. But basically, you can have multiple scan repositories, and then you can scan your rule onto multiple servers. Because if you remember, workers can have multiple physical scan repositories. So you submit your rule, you click submit, and then you get to the dashboard page. And on the dashboard page, you basically see that there are two rules, two new jobs, basically, that have been submitted. You have 998 quota right now. And those jobs are staying there, and then one worker will fetch them, and they will run the job for you. Once workers finish running the jobs, you will get you can access the page where you have more info about this job, like for example that it finished, when did it start, when did it finish, how many seconds did it take, and if there are any results. If KLara returned any results, you'll get them here. Also, you'll get the matched MD5s of the samples that have matched. You can get them here. So you can get a list of MD5s. You can add it into your favorite MISP instance, or in your favorite threat intelligence platform, and you can carry on from there. Well, this is pretty cool. Now, I would like to go for 5 minutes into some more technical, in-depth information about how this works, so you can see some of the features of KLara. This might be useful for you if you want to install it yourself. So at the back end, as I said, you need to have web users in order for people to access KLara web interface. So when you're creating users, you have multiple options and multiple fields that you need to fill in. And of course, you have to fill in the username, you have some description here, and then you have 3 fields that are pretty important. Like quota searches means that how many jobs can that user is allowed to submit every month. This quota searches is being reset every first day of the month. So basically, you can see like this user has 1,000 quota searches. Then you have the authorization level. So the authorization level means like how authorized is that user in the system. 16 is like administrator, but you have other levels such as 8, which is normal user, not administrator, without quotas. You have 4, normal user with quota, and 2, which is again normal user with quotas. All this information I'm telling you right now is on the GitHub. So don't worry, you don't have to like take notes now, but I just want to go through them a bit just so you know what it is. So they also have like some group this user belongs to. So groups define what kind of repositories you're allowed to scan. So you can have like user administrator is part of group number 1, so he can scan 1, 3, and 5. And user number 2 is part of group general. He can only scan repository number ID number 1. Also, group defines if users are jailed or not. Jailed users means that 2 users in the same group cannot see each other's submissions. If users are not jailed in a group, then everybody sees everybody else's submission from that group. So this is pretty useful if you have multiple teams in your company, and those teams need to see each other rules. Now, these groups here, this is a JSON list, so you have to add into the database a JSON list, and then this list defines the repositories that are listed in another table called scan file sets. And basically, you can see that users from group admins, they can scan various total samples, they can scan clean files, and they can scan collection A and collection B and collection C. And general users can only scan various total samples. So basically, this is the correlation between what users, like this user KLara, in group Kaspersky training, and this rule, and which scan repositories that user is allowed to scan. Okay, now, it's very important when you install KLara, and most of the users found it hard, and they were saying that the workers are not picking up jobs. That is because workers need to have this repository control file. You can see more information about this control file at the README here. But basically, what it does, this is a physical file that needs to reside at the root top-level directory of your scan repository. If this file exists, then the worker will read some information from it, and then it will know that this scan repository is available for it to scan. So when users submit jobs, then this worker will search if he can scan those jobs over this folder. Okay, those are like the main issues that you might encounter when you want to install KLara on your own. Now, I would like to go a little bit over some advanced features of KLara. They are well documented, again, on GitHub, but I would like to mention one. There are some times when your workers might not have enough space, or you want to redirect the scan to another folder. This can be done easily with a function called, let's say, feature called redirect paths. What redirect paths does is, whenever a worker fetches a new job, and then this worker fetches a job to scan mount storage various total samples, if this redirect paths is in the repository control file, then that worker would actually know that the folder it needs to scan is actually Mount NAS KLara bigger collection. So in a nutshell, it takes the first entry in the list. I will add the possibility to scan multiple entries, but right now it only takes the first entry in the list. So this is one of the features.
Other features are you can rewrite your output paths. Basically, whenever you see the results, you can rewrite them to your specific regex. You can search for some hashes. So administrator can search for hashes, and they can detect whether how many KLara rules matched that specific hash. And this is pretty interesting in order to see like if your rules overlap, or if you have like multiple rules that detect the same files. And also another feature is shareable links. So as I mentioned before, you might have different groups that are working independently. But sometimes a person from group A would like to share something with a person from group B. So because they're in different groups, they cannot see each other's submissions, but that person from group A can give it a shareable link, and then by doing that, anybody can see his rules. So this is pretty useful for sharing and collaboration. Well, this is KLara in a nutshell. But, you know, this wouldn't be useful if we don't actually try to make it like more, squeeze everything out of it. So let's talk about a little bit about performance. So we recommend, and this is what we're using internally on our servers. We have like SSD server. We have like 8 SSDs in a RAID 5 configuration. So this gives us around 13.5 terabytes of storage for each server. Now, on each of these servers, I recommend you installing a XFS file system. This is pretty useful because XFS is really fast for reading files. Now, a word of warning, XFS does a lot of wear on SSDs. So it can wear SSDs much faster than normal file systems, but it only does this when you're writing files. But it's okay. We're not writing a lot of files. We're reading a lot of files. So that's pretty good. Now, this is how the server looks like in full load. And with this setup, we managed to achieve a scanning speed of 2 gigabytes per second. So this means that we can scan our collection, our Kaspersky collection of smaller Kaspersky collection in almost for like 40 minutes or so. And multiple users can scan the same collection because of caching and because of the RAID controller. Everybody, when is scanning, like it takes almost 40 minutes. Right now, we have been using KLara internally in our team for almost like 2 years now, and we have like almost 30,000 jobs. And also, KLara is successfully used for our KLara training. My colleagues and Vitaly Kamluk, Sergei Miniev, and my manager Costin Raiu, they are doing KLara training. So if you want to learn about how to be a ninja with KLara, please get in touch with us, and we offer trainings. And you can actually play with KLara during the training. So in order to achieve this, also, this is the configuration of the file system optimizations I'm using. And this is pretty useful because and you have to be really careful because you can degrade performance, and it's very useful if you align the partition with the RAID controller. So you have to be very careful to align the partition and the stripe sizes with the RAID controller, else you will get like super degraded performance. Of course, when you're mounting the XFS partition, you have to be careful in order to mount it with the specific options to get like super good performance out of it. Okay, so in the future, I would like to add like an API for KLara, so for you in order to submit the jobs automatically. And whenever you have like this new KLara rule, basically you just submit it and then you get the results back automatically and you get notified. So you don't have to do it manually. But this is one thing. And also I want to have like some merge jobs. So whenever 3 users are submitting the same job, I want to merge them and then to give them results at the same time. Mostly like what VirusTotal does. But anyway, because thank you very much for coming here, and our gift to you, if you want, is I can create an account for you on our KLara online scanner. And this means that if you are interested in playing with KLara rules, I can create an account for you. Just come see me after today, after my talk, or like during today or tomorrow. And I can create an account for you, and you can play with it, and you can actually scan our smaller Kaspersky repository and test your YARA to see how it is. Well, this was KLara in a nutshell, and I think that if Sun Tzu would have known it, this is what the quote should have been. So thank you very much, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Dan.
Also, I would like to say that it's an honor to be here. This is my first time in Hack in the Box Singapore, so it's amazing. Thank you very much for inviting me.
And it's an honor to have you here as well. Are there any questions from the audience?
Well, okay.
Here you go.
If new data gets added to the collection, does it do like incremental scanning, or does it have to scan the whole thing?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
Sure. So if you have the repository
Yes.
and new files get added to it, will it rerun old jobs that had previously scanned that collection?
If you have, can you say it again? I wasn't hearing.
Yeah. So you have a repository.
Yes.
It has 10,000 files.
Yes.
You ran your scan. You had 0 hits. Since then, your colleagues added 200 new items to the repository.
You have to scan it again. You have to scan it again.
And it'll scan the whole thing. You can't just do an incremental.
No, but I think it can be implemented as a feature. So currently, no. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm here to those 2 days.
Okay, if there are no more questions, please know that if you think of some later, Dan will be around, so please do not hesitate to ask him anything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Dan. Give it up. Woo.